Peace and love, brothers and sisters. And I have to say, happy anniversary to the greatest, most magnificent, magnanimous charter that ever existed here on the earthly plane, especially here in the territory that we call America, as well as England, and that is the English Magna Carta. The Magna Carta was signed on June 15th, 1215, in the territory that we call Runnymede, by King John I from the royal house of Plantagenet with his disgruntled barons. And these disgruntled barons actually forced the king's hand. So, anything that's pretty much done by force is considered coercion or threat and the rest. So what the king had to do, just so that therefore he can save not only his life, but the sanctity of the kingdom, he had to go ahead and relinquish some so-called rights to these disgruntled barons. Now, why this information is important? Because if you understand what's taking place all over so-called America, which historically is still underneath the jurisdiction of the Kingdom of England, even though the people don't know it, they're doing the so-called No Kings protest. Now, the problem with this is in 1783, the King of Great Britain went ahead and signed the so-called Treaty of Paris that gave you the ability to exist as a free sovereign entity or a free sovereign nation. Now, what the king was doing out of his gracious, because he didn't actually have to relinquish his control of his colonies for you to actually be out here doing your monopoly or your commercial enterprise. And so now many of you folks today who are actually citizens and wards, who are actually the descendants of those people who was in rebellion in the 1780s, are actually nothing more than doing what they did back then, regarding, like I said, trying to come away from the king, which placed you in the position that you're in today as debtors, slaves in bondage perpetually, because you came away from the king. And the king back then was known as the Vicar of Christ, especially in the British American territories, which we call the United States today. So for those of you in America who don't know, the 1783 Treaty of Paris, which gave the United States the ability to exist as the free and sovereign entity, you need to not only do your homework, but you need to settle down and understand who you are, on what side of the fence and what parties, because you still owe your position in regards to upholding that treaty of 1783, which was signed and passed by a king. Peace.